Welcome to episode 2 of The Road Less Traveled. Here with Aaron, and the guest we have tonight is Matt from The Card Story. How you doing, Matt?
Doing well. Thanks for having me on, guys. How you doing?
Good. Thanks for being on. Aaron is in charge right now of guests, and I think he has a pretty good one tonight. So this should be a fun episode. So before we go forward, just kind of want to reiterate what we're doing here. The goal of the channel is to kind of showcase some of the lesser known pre-war sets. Aaron and I in particular love the scarce rare stuff, and the goal here is to kind of showcase some stuff that's just not seen all the time. And the tagline is cards more rare than the Honus Wagner T206, and that's what we certainly have tonight. So the main disclaimer is when we talk about pop reports, we can't account for crossovers, and it's relatively hard to account for raw cards. So the Wagner, we have I think there's 55 graded in the registries, but I believe the estimate is closer to 60, 61, somewhere in there as far as what is known out there. So that's the basis of what we're going off of. Without further ado, Matt, do you want to start us off as the guest tonight?
Sure, be happy to. All right, definitely excited to be on the channel. This is really, I guess, a great series you're doing. So thanks for having me on. So I'm doing Ty Cobb from my player. And the set I was going to start off with is the T205 gold border, right? So for my data, I only grabbed SGC and PSA. And so for that set, there's just under 94,000 cards graded for the entire set. The SGC population report is a little more fragmented, right? They kind of do it by backs, whereas PSA just gives you one total. So it's almost 50-50. PSA is graded just over 49,000. And SGC is just under 45,000. So it's split pretty much 50-50 down the middle, which is not surprising. SGC does a lot of vintage, right? So not terribly surprised, but you're pre-war. So for Ty Cobb, so this card right here, this actually is our first pre-war card we actually ever bought. So we got this at the 2023 National, our first National. I actually bought this for my son, Tyrus. He's actually named Tyrus, except for Ty Cobb. Sorry for the glare. Hope that's not terrible. So this one's actually the Hassan cigarette back, which is one of the backs that he was on. He's on, looks like he's on 5 different backs. The American Beauty, this one, as well as the Honest Long Cut, Piedmont, and Polar Bear backs. So there's about 1,348 of this Ty Cobb across those two companies. So obviously, grateful to have one, but it's definitely, when we're talking about rare cards or scarce cards, this is obviously not one that will qualify for that. I'm sure there's some grade rarity that you could probably get on the higher end. Mine's not going to qualify for that either, but happy to have it. Like I said, it was our first card. The set's a little bit about the set. So there was 198 players on it, but there's 209 different cards. A lot of you guys are probably aware there were quite a few variations, right? So there's like a Eddie Collins with an open and closed mouth. There's a brush in the hand that has the same open and closed. For both those guys, the rarer one's the open mouth. I don't have any of those to share. I wish I did. This is actually the only card I have from the set still. I was going to build it at one point, then decided not to. The big, I guess, rare variation is I'm probably going to butcher this name, but Dick Hublitzel. There was a random back where he had some interest. He had like 4 different types, but there's one that's like super rare. So there's no stats, I think is what it's for.
Hublitz on no stats is the big
the no stats is the rare one. So this one's actually cool. This is like one of the first cards that actually had 3 years of stats, and so he had a pretty good year in 19. All these years really, but he batted 385 in 1910. That's not terrible. It's funny, they actually focused on fielding percentage back then too. So 958 fielding. So just interesting stats, and he obviously played a lot of games, which is why he had so many hits.
Is that the second set that has stats on the back?
I think it's the first set that has more than 1 year, but I think there was one other set that had stats before this, but
T201s.
Yep.
Kicked that off, and then I believe the T205 is the second set, which is really cool.
Yeah, we like this one. Like I said, I named my son after Ty Cobb, so middle name Henry. That's where the card story comes from, but that's his name, Tyrus Henry. So big baseball fan. I know I've done some other videos recently. Well, not my own video. I've been on some other channels recently showing some other cards. But your partner in crime there, Aaron, has definitely inspired me to go down this pre-war rabbit hole quite a bit. I wouldn't say pushed me, but encouraged me. I think he calls himself the encourager these days, right? So
yeah.
Well, the T205 certainly, if you're looking to dip your toes into pre-war, the T205 set is one that certainly mainstream and certainly one that's pretty easy to get into. It's very beautiful. The American League artwork on there in particular is some of the best card design in the history of baseball cards.
I like the minor leaguer cards too. There's 12 minor league players that are represented.
Yep.
And that's a really cool. There's like ornate kind of decorations at each of the corners, and like the logo's got a really the font that they use on it's really cool. But yeah, to your point, this is American League, obviously. So you got the bat and the glove down there at the bottom.
Yep.
No shoes for Aaron that I could see, but then obviously the other one, like the National League, like the Mathewson has just like kind of a plain background, right? So
with the facsimile.
Yep. Say the first facsimile signature. Yeah, that was the first set to have that. So I mean, obviously pretty groundbreaking. Obviously, American Tobacco was like a monopoly back then, kind of like we think about Fanatics, but they definitely did rest on their laurels. They made some great cards across a ton of different sets.
Yep, I would agree with that.
Yeah, fantastic.
So, what do you have for the rare Cobb? If that beauty is your is your common one.
So this one, I know you guys talked about in that first episode, which was great. I may be breaking the rules slightly. I know you kind of mentioned 55 and then 61. This one's just over that, but it's the only other Cobb I actually still have. This is the H.M. Taylor postcard from 1907 to 1909. The glare's probably not good. Oh, geez. But it's him at bat. And so what's cool about this one, it was issued over 3 years. They were kind of to celebrate. There was a ton of postcards that came out back in that year. They just won their pennant in 1907. There was the A.C. Deach, There was this H.M. Taylor. And then there's the Wolverine News. All three of those were issued around the same time. What I like about mine, I actually got this from one of our mutual friends, Phil Gary, Rookie Card Collector 123. It actually was postally used. So I know a lot of people don't like that. I think that's awesome. And you can kind of tell the age on this one because, around that time, that's when they split the postcards in that half where you could write on this side and then put the address over here. This one's just like the flat blank across the back. Yep. And it was postmarked October 7th, 1907. So I know it was recently used because these were actually issued to kind of commemorate them winning that pennant. So this is probably I would assume one of the first printings. I have no way to verify that, of course, right? But so yeah, this one, just for reference, this set across SGC and PSA again only. There's 254 of these graded for the whole set. There's 8 cards though, right? So as you can imagine, Cobb was graded pretty heavily. So 62 of those 254 cards were Cobb. So it's just over the 61 you kind of use as like the theoretical kind of population potentially out there for the Wagner, but it's right there. And these are really cool. There's actually one that there's like this floral horseshoe as well that is really rare in the set. There's only a few copies of that have been created. So, and then there's also the team card. So in addition to this Cobb kind of standalone card, there's a team card that I wouldn't mind getting. It calls like the Detroit Ball Club, I think is what it says on the front, but that one's really cool. So that one's on the list. I'd like to try to track one down, like an authentic or something. Mm-hmm. I'd love to have been one that went to the mail as well. I kind of like that more on the postcards if where I could find it, or just even heavy where to keep the price lower, right? So anyway, this one hadn't even had writing on the front. In fact, then you didn't write on the back, right? You just wrote the address back there. So it literally had writing. Just says, "Hurrah, we are the people," which I guess was like a slogan back then.
Okay. Kind
of reminds me of Huey Jennings, right? Where there's hands in the air. Obviously, I know there's a later card, right? But it's just a really cool image. So happy to have that one. I know some people don't call postcard rookie cards. There's obviously the W601 kind of team card that had his image on there first in 1906, but and there's obviously similar like W600s around the same time as well, like 1907 that came out. So there's other items out there, but I'm happy to have this one. I would love to get another Ty Cobb rookie card, but for now, I'm super grateful to have this one.
So 2 things. Number 1, can you hold that back up again?
I will do my best. The glare is really killing everything, probably. So can you see it, or is it still really, really bad?
That's not too bad there. I just wanted to give people another chance to see the image.
Yeah. Yeah, it's actually, this one I know, and I don't care about centering anymore, really, but it's actually pretty well centered. Top to bottom, anyway. I think they left the room bigger to right a little bit, but yeah, literally the back's all address. This one was sent to someone in Michigan, Owasso, Michigan, which I looked up trying to find the person just to see if I could get information about them or whatever. See if ancestry.com type stuff. But I couldn't really find much out there without having to invest money. So I didn't go that far. I didn't recognize the name as like a famous person or anything. But I think it's just cool. Like the people communicated back then with postcards, right?
Yep.
Kind of a lost art form in today's society. We just do texts or. I like email still. Most people just do texts, or my kids just do Discord a lot, right? So I know we're on a couple of us on a Discord chat. Like they didn't want to text anybody anymore, so no one definitely don't call their friends. So things have definitely changed over the years, right? But
it's funny.
It's a cool piece of history.
I love the postmarked ones as well. That you can see the history of who was buying these. Where were they being sent from? So often, actually, you'll see them with Cleveland addresses on the back, being one of the original ball clubs. That was one of the oldest fan bases. So I always enjoyed that part. You mentioned Phil. First of all, I also the card I'm sharing tonight is also from Phil. So that's funny. Is that this now? He does the true rookie card. Is he going to slap you on the wrist at the frat house in Independence for calling that a rookie card?
Well, I mean, I know certain things he has rules on. I know I was watching the video today. I'm trying to remember what all stipulations are, but I know like for some, I know he's going to let stamps don't count. So he definitely has some rules on some of the different things. But like, look, I think that he mentioned one of the 58. It was Gibson today on the episode, and he said that there's a 58 Omaha doesn't count though. I can't remember if it was a postcard or not, but it's fine. Like, look, I make my own rules for my collection, right, or whatever the mantra is, or my own CEO of my own collection. So For me, I'm happy to have it. I'm sure he's happy to sell it to me. So I'll remind him of that. I'm teasing Phil, of course, right? But look, I collect any. I mean, obviously, we're talking about before we came on a lot, on the show, right? Like newspapers, everything. I'm into anything. The early images, earliest image I can find. It's a real image. I'm willing to go almost anything with their image, right? So. I've definitely changed my collecting style a lot last 6 to 12 months for sure. But it's a fun journey. And then like if it's something super cheap, I can still get another card if I want to, right? So this one not so much, but I may want to reallocate capital somewhere else until I get at least a bunch of the other players knocked off first. But obviously, I'm sure I'll come back to Cobb at some point, just given that's what I named my son after, right? So I'm sure we'll get back to collecting all his cards at some point in the future. Once my kid's back into collecting, maybe.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I think Phil would count that too. I think he's exhibits. I think Jimmy Fox exhibit he counts as. So that's right there with the postcard thing. Yeah, it does get tough with some of those when you get into oversized, crazy stuff or minor league or where does it go? But
I think that's what it was. It was a minor league issue. That's why I didn't let the Bob Gibson count because of Omaha. That's what it was.
Yeah, that makes sense. Pre-rookie.
Yep.
So
Awesome.
Good stuff. Yeah, fantastic card.
Aaron, do you want to go next?
Thank you.
Sure. Yeah, I will. I feel like I'm always kind of slacking and going a little sideways on populations, but we ended up kind of unofficially going with a first Hall of Fame class kind of group tonight. So
Spoiled.
Ty Cobb, highest vote getter. I have one of the, I guess really the earliest pitcher, maybe the greatest pitcher of all time. So I have Walter Johnson tonight. So what's amazing when you dig into him as a player and you just fire off some of his stats, the 2.17, 2.16, you see that sometimes. 3509. I mean, I can remember growing up in 1984, seeing those Topps cards where it was like Gaylord Perry and Steve Carlton, I think, Don Sutton, maybe like they all pass like his strikeout total. That was like the 714 for strikeouts. That was just the epic number. 417 wins. Probably would have been somewhat more competitive with Cy Young had he been on a team that was a little more dominant. But I mean, 2 Triple Crowns, struck out 300 twice, 2 30-win seasons, 12 20-plus win seasons. In 1908, just kind of random fun stuff. I always love this. He had 3 shutouts in 4 days. Like those are the things we'll never see again, and we can't really comprehend. So whenever someone says, like, I don't know if he really threw 99 miles an hour, like, I don't know if anyone's going to throw 3 shutouts in 4 days. So let's stop having this, like, this versus that debate. But yeah, pretty amazing.
Not to mention the fact that back then, it's not like they were sitting on a jugs machine or a pitching machine, being prepped on speed. they were facing whatever they could, and there wasn't formal training on it. So, however fast he was throwing, it was faster than most, and that mattered back then.
Yeah. Yeah, you learned how to throw by picking up a rock and throwing it at the side of the barn, and if you can get it through the hole, you were considered a good pitcher. So, yeah, it's a different world. So for his, because of the topics and some of the sets we've dug into, I didn't want to grab a T206 because I figure that's a set that we're going to have to come to regularly. So I picked a set that almost qualifies as the rare scarce kind of qualification. So this set was issued in 1911. This is 1910-11, which is interesting because a lot of things I saw said 1911. It's the Sporting Life M116. So I'm going to show my Walter. This was on my shopping list last year as a goal target card, and I fortunately was able to land it. So it was in an auction. Josh from Vintage Card Wonderland reached out and he's like, "Hey, your card's there." These are also interesting. Another thing to like track down unique backs. So there's blue, there's black. From everything I saw, the population of the whole set, and this is where I go a little sideways. Population of the whole set was just over 300. They were issued in series. So I think it was a 12 series of 24, which doesn't quite get you to 300. But I think the last couple issues were actually larger. I think as large as 72. So the way they distributed and issued the entire set was just kind of interesting. There's certain cards in that set that they seem to be impossible to find, and there's others that seem like there's 4 of them on eBay. But Walter Johnson was one of the tougher ones. That's one that you see sell maybe once or twice a year, maybe not that year kind of thing. So his population for him, not the entire set, but for him, PSA is graded 68, SGC is graded 43. So you're talking 111 graded by the big 2. Mm-hmm. I didn't dig into Beckett and CGC and some of those too in depth, and I didn't do the entire set. Part of it was with a population that large, you're going to have some cards that just don't get graded, because why would you grade a $30 card for $30? And then the other side of it, there is some spread and variance. So the other set I'm going to dive into, I'll talk about some of the spread between players because I think it's a maybe more relevant comparison. But
so when you said the population was 300, that's the set list across all series.
Yes,
correct.
Yeah,
okay,
not graded population. That's the checklist. Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Just wanted to clarify that.
yeah. Good correction. Yeah, sometimes I use words interchangeably that shouldn't be. Yeah. I should know that as an academic. That's not okay.
It's after hours.
Yeah, right.
Yep.
So that's my common issue.
Unlike Matt's Ty Cobb, that is not one that's super easy to get into. That set has gone pretty nuclear in recent years. It's not. I mean, technically. It is not as rare as a T206 Hannes, but you're still talking 1/10 or 1/7 of his T206 population. So, I mean, that's still pretty rare, but that it is a beautiful set. If you want to get a little bit further into pre-war and find some just gorgeous images that you don't see every day. The M116 set, correct?
Yep.
Yeah, and the M116 set is one to really look at. Just some terrific images. All portraits, correct?
Yeah, and one of the unique things that I think is maybe polarizing is the fact that they're not in hats. That looks very formal. It's like the senior photo kind of thing. It's a very formal image, and which I think, to me, humanizes. I like the human side of the story. I like Walter Johnson's life story. So for me, that's one of his best-looking images.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So
it looks like the W600 kind of uniform photos, right?
That's
Same kind of portraits.
In my head, too.
Yeah. Or some of those Bob Warner photos, right? So you see out there from there.
Or the
cabinet cards.
The Brees Williams.
E107s.
Yep.
Can't afford those. Those are not going to. I can't afford those. That should be clear.
I'm happy to say I've bid on them. That's about all I can do. Yeah, can't win one, but at least I can say I put an offer in. Yeah, they're tough.
Excellent.
Should I dive into my somewhat rare scares? Okay. So this one I'm going to, I feel like I can't follow the rules on anything. Mine makes it impossible to even give you much of a description. So here's the challenge. I don't know what year it was issued. I don't know who did it. And I don't know how it was given out. Great show. Thanks. Glad I could help. Yeah. Terrible, right? So depending where you look, reading from PSA, they say it's 1916 to 1920. Most of SGC says it's 1916 to 1920. Mine says that. Darn it. There's one that's been graded as a 1918 to 1920. So part of the challenge is these are the uncatalogued. I'll show the card. That's these W uncatalogued issues. So a lot of it's actually more mystery and question marks than there are answers to this set. And again, polarizing. The other one is like no hat. People are offended. This one is straight up cartoon caricature chaos. So the coloring, the cut, everything about that can be offensive to the wrong collector. But I love stuff like that because it is so tough to find. Total checklist for the entire set is 20. So it's a very, very small set. It's so funny. PSA listed as being a 1 3/8 by 2.5. I don't know. I've got a few in this set. I don't think any of them will qualify as their textbook definition because they're hand cut. I have some with grades and I have some that are authentic, and it's just pure luck when they get a grade, and it makes no sense to me anyway. So
I've always found that funny with strip cards. Were they intended to be cut right on the line? Were they intended to be cut a little bit wider than the line? How do you actually come to a definite or a definitive dimension set?
So many of those, they want to see the line, but I mean, second grade Aaron, you were told to cut on the line, not cut to where the line shows. Like you're failing art class at that point, but PSA loves it.
Yep. With those rounded scissors we have,
Yeah, the little like rubber handles and stuff. I love those things. What else can I say? Cartoon-like, obviously, large cranium is how PSA describes it. So they're called the big head set, which large cranium sounds very scientific. Checklist is crazy. He's got Home Run Baker, Dave Bancroft, Ty Cobb, which I do not have, Rogers Hornsby, Walter Johnson, and actually, if I get in super close, you can see Walter Johnson is actually listed as Johnston.
Yep.
Maybe, hopefully that'll show up okay. Well, Sam Rice, which I think is rookie-ish for him.
Correct.
Babe Ruth. Depending where this gets defined, is it a 1916 or is it a 1918? So that can really have a big impact on your value of your roof.
Well, none of it matters for an actual rookie card because 1914 Baltimore News is that.
Baltimore News, yeah, I suppose. Earlier helps though, that's for darn sure.
Yes, that's very true.
The other two are Ray Schalk and George Sisler, and it definitely matters for Sisler too.
Yes.
So where you define that, yeah, it's tough. It's a really, really tough set to dig into and analyze, and I think it's polarizing enough that some people stay away. I did dive into the grading, and that's what gets interesting. So PSA, SGC, like I said, SGC does split. So they say it's 16 to 20 or 18 to 20. Walter Johnson is probably among the most average graded. PSA is graded 6. SGC is graded between the 2-year variations 8. So there's 14 of those graded. I think I wrote down, if I can find, watch me lie to you, I can't find it. But Babe Ruth, I want to say, had a very similar total. I'm not seeing Ruth. Where did I put Ruth? Maybe I didn't write him down. Hornsby was one of the most graded, so that's the easy one to get for our Hornsby collectors out there. Matt.
It's on the list. It's on the list.
It's on the list. So, and it's easy to get because there's 13 with PSA and there's 13 with SGC. So you got 26 of them to find. So
one every other state. I got it. No problem.
It's so literally that's where my mind always goes. I always, does somebody else in my state have this? So
That's cool, right? That's how I think about it too. Yeah.
Yeah, and that cutoff of the Hannes Wagner idea of 61 ish, roughly one per state, and I'm sure there's a couple international copies out there. But yeah, to me that's super cool. I think the Johnston probably turns people off too, just a little bit in terms of air. Some people don't like that, but
Yep.
that's my most epic pickup of my life. I picked that one up at a local card shop for $30, and then I think he gave me a little bit of discount on it. So, and that's like 2 years ago. So that's not
I remember that video. It was awesome.
yeah. That wasn't 9-year-old Aaron. That was like 47-year-old Aaron found that card for $28.
This is my year then. All right, good.
Yeah, there you go.
I pulled up the PSA pop. Ruth is at 10 for PSA in that set. So I'd imagine the SGC is probably just under that or right around there. So yeah, very, very similar quantity.
Yeah, and the consistency. I mean, even Larry Doyle has 8 graded PSA.
Yep.
So my check of relevancy is always the M116s. You're going to have 100 and something of Walter Johnson, but you're probably going to have 30 of Larry Doyle. But with these big heads, I think pretty much everything's sent in. I don't see them ungraded on eBay. Right now there's 5 or 6 on eBay actually, which is shocking, given that you're talking about an entire set that probably has 300 or 400.
And I'm sure once this video comes out, you're going to see a tiny spike in the eBay searches for for big heads. That's awesome. Yeah, that is a really good measuring stick, because as Aaron and I were discussing the origins of this series, he brought up the point that if you take a 1989 Upper Deck common player, the graded numbers of that card are going to be substantially lower than that of the Ken Griffey Jr. And that does not mean that card is rare. That just means it's not graded. So when you're looking at pop reports, looking at the full set to see where the consistency is in range is really a good telltale of how rare the set and card is. So it's a really good point.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yep.
Good stuff. Yeah, always happy to talk, Walter.
Awesome. Well, I will go last. I chose Hannes Wagner, as Aaron kind of alluded to earlier. This is a first Hall of Fame episode. But I chose Hannes Wagner, and yes, it is, for all accounts and purposes, pronounced Hannes. I have had to break the lifelong habit of saying Honus. I recently read a book to my kids, and in the book they have the right, the phonetic pronunciation of it, and it is Hannes. The shorthand is Hans, and it's short for Johannes Wagner, which was his full first name. He was nicknamed the Flying Dutchman. He debuted with the Louisville Colonels in 1897 and played with them through 1899. He joined Pittsburgh in 1900, where he played until 1917, and then managed/coached until 1951, which I believe is 4 years prior to his death. So he was in the game of baseball for right up until the end, essentially. Fun fact, he did turn down a $20,000 contract offer from the White Sox in 1901. Sorry, Jason, everyday card collector. You could have had another legend to collect. And then he played nearly every position until 1904, where he cemented himself as a shortstop. In 1905, he signed a contract to produce the first bat with a player's signature. It was called the Louisville Slugger, and he became the first sportsman to endorse a commercial product with that. Now we can't get a product that's not endorsed by an athlete. He won the batting title, the league batting title, in 1911 at age 37. oldest player to hit an inside the park home run in 1916 at age 42. Named the second best player of all time by historian and statistician Bill James. And then I think Matt mentioned that Ty Cobb was the highest vote getter for the initial class of Hall of Fame votes. Honus Wagner was tied for second with Babe Ruth on that list. So his lore, I feel, is more tied to his T206 than his actual talent. But for all intents and purposes, he is one of the greatest, if not the greatest, baseball player of all time. Certainly, you could argue shortstop, but he's very good. So his common card that I do not have, and I'm going to cheat with this one. So we've all three broken a rule essentially. As Aaron said in text to me when I brought this up to him, he said rules are meant to be broken. So if you are a guest on this show or in future episodes, just know there is no pressure to stick to the hard, fast rules, essentially. But the card I'm going to compare it to is the T206. The T206 is the holy grail of card collecting. It is the subject of 3 books, 1 adult and 2 for children. One of them I just mentioned is the Honus and Me by Dan Gutman. If you are a parent with younger children, I highly recommend getting the Baseball Card Adventure series by Dan Gutman. Honus and Me is the first book in the series, and it is just a really, really good children's book series. So nobody knows for certain why Honus objected to his inclusion in the set, nor is it known how many were printed and put into circulation. The original theory was not wanting to market tobacco to kids, but if you read other publications, Honus had no issue with his name and image being used by other tobacco products. So there's a lot of question marks on that. The legend of the card was jump-started by Jefferson Burdick, the father of card organization. He published the American Card Catalog in 1937. In that catalog, he assigned value to T206s. The value he assigned to most T206s was 25 cents. He gave the Wagner a $50 value in 1937, which is $1,125 in 2026. Certainly would easily pay for a T206 Honus Wagner for $1,000. The pop, as we talked about, is around 56 total graded copies and then 60-ish known estimated copies. But the rare card I have tonight is a 1911 baseball bats. This is a very rare set. I did not pull the total set population, I don't believe. Maybe I did. Let's see. No, I did not. But there are... So basically, up until 2011, there was very little known about this set. They were hand-cut cards from a box of baseball bats candy. And in 2011, an article was produced on oldcardboard.com that discovered more information about it. So the set was produced by Dutch Greaves Licorice Company, located in Jersey City, New Jersey. It resembled a pack of cigarettes, which is ironic given the lore of the Honus T206. There are 3 different variations: a black and white, just an orange border with, I believe, a black and white image, and then orange border with a red background, which mine is the orange border with red background, although you cannot see the orange border because it was cut off. It was a 50-card set with 49 players. Oscar Stanage has 2 different poses. And you know what? I did pull the total set pop. So PSA has graded a total of 8 baseball bats cards for the entire set, and SGC has graded a total of 22. Beckett has graded 1, which is a Walter Johnson. So it is a very rare set, hence why it really hasn't had much information on it until this century. The Hannes Wagner population, PSA, of the 8 total baseball bats, 1 of them is a Hannes Wagner. And for SGC, of the 22, 2 are Hannes Wagners. Now, if you go to the SGC Pop Report, only 1 is listed. If you look at sales data, there is a second, there is this one. And then there is an SGC, I think 1.5 or something like that, in an old flip that is also on there. So a total of 3. There's none graded by Beckett, none graded by CGC. So a total of 3, which is fully supported by sales data between Card Ladder and VCP. So that card is definitely rarer than the T206 Hannes Wagner. But I recently picked this up from Phil, as I alluded to earlier, and I missed having a Wagner. You can see it has some writing on it, and so the card is supposed to have his name on the bottom here, but that was trimmed off. It's a hand-cut set from a box of candy. Somebody decided they don't want the name on there, and so that kept the price in a range where it made sense for me to grab it, and appreciate that person for not liking the name. But anyways, 3 really great rare cards, 3 of the best players of all time tonight, and that was this was a lot of fun. I enjoy, I said it earlier, Aaron and I especially enjoy the rare stuff, just because you don't see it every day. And it doesn't have to be Hall of Fame. The first 2 episodes have been Hall of Fame focused, but and that's largely due to what Aaron and I collect. But we have a guest in a future episode coming up that will not be featuring a Hall of Fame card, I don't believe. So it doesn't have to be Hall of Fame. Again, the goal is just to show that there is a lot more out there than just the T206s, the 1933 Gaudis, and those mainstream sets. So, Matt, thank you very much for joining us. Do you have anything you want to add?
No, obviously, congrats on the pickup.
Yeah.
I didn't mention this. I know I didn't allude to this, but anyone that watches Aaron's channel, he'll talk about population sometimes, and he's like, well, there's one less than that because mine's not for sale, right? So technically, Aaron actually is the one that got the H.M. Taylor Cobb postcard before I did, right? I saw it on his channel, right? So back that out, we're at 61. It's very close, but anyway, we're splitting hairs. But thanks again for having me on. Awesome cards, obviously. That W on Hornsby is on my list. I know you showed the Walter Johnson, but definitely want to get that one day, Aaron. So honored to be the first guest, and look forward to more episodes of the series. It's great.
I appreciate that, Matt.
Yeah, super glad to have you. You're collecting. It's like just a joy to see the direction it's going, and I love when people show things like centering doesn't matter. It's all about there's 20 of these or 15 of them or 60 of them. Like that's the amazing joy of it. It's 100 years old and it's impossible to find. So thank you for sharing today.
Yep, of course.
I texted you guys earlier. I was watching a Sports Card Investor episode today, and the title was "We spent $220,000 on rare cards," and I got a huge chuckle during the episode because when they were pulling up pop reports, the pop numbers they were using, outside of the few the manufactured one-of-ones and stuff like that, the pop data they were using were 10s, and there was like 17 PSA 10s out there. But there's like 2,000 of that card. And, when we talk about rarity, it's, pop 61. Yeah, there are actually only 61 cards. It's not of that card. It's not just, a certain grade. So it's funny how when you cross error lines, rarity changes. But
Yeah.
pre-war, in my opinion, is so much fun for that reason. So,
Yeah, but it gets tough because Aaron talked about this all the time too. Like some of the pop, let's say they're 50 pop, right? But there's only like 4 or 5 that may be in our price range. And
Yep.
so honestly, it's like when you see it like an authentic or 1 or 2, some of these cards, that's all we're ever going to be able to afford, right?
Yep.
So at least without having to make huge sacrifices, right? So yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like I mean, that's probably in my mind. That's probably the one in our price range, right? So congrats, you have it, right? So
yeah, very interested to see once the last full card of that sold in 2018.
oh wow,
So
Wow.
very interested to see the next sale of what a full one of those does, given where the Honus market has gone. But you're spot on, Matt. The collectability gets shrunk down even more based on what you can afford for these.
It's reverse scarcity. Yeah,
Yeah.
the high grade stuff is unapproachable, so you need to find the. Yeah, I've jumped so many times and I'm like, it's a 1, but there's only 3 1s, so
Yep.
I can't afford a 2. So it's now or never. Yeah,
You know, I think Mike and Chris, when they do their showcase showdown, they talk about this. The most important thing is that you have the card, regardless of grade, condition, etc. You know, having the card is almost certainly more enjoyable than just never owning it, and that's it. It makes it fun to bend the hobby guidelines as to what you should be collecting, based on what you actually can collect and what's available. So
yeah,
for sure.
yeah.
Excellent.
It's surprising. There's a lot of us out here like this, though.
yeah,
It's its own it's its own movement of just people that are anti high grade. We're just rare, scarce, and happy it exists.
exactly. Well, that is going to be it for tonight's episode. If you're not subscribed to Matt, his channel, he has recently started to potentially make more videos.
We're gonna get there this year. Yes.
It's February.
Yeah. His channel is the card story. I'll link it below. Or he'll be tagged in the video. But he took a long hiatus from making videos, and he has done a lot of collaborations recently on other people's channel, and I'm excited for him to get back to making his own videos because he does have a tremendous collection, and was appreciative of him coming on and showing a very small part of it tonight. So, and as always, Aaron, thank you very much for taking the time.
Thank you, my friend.
So, excellent. Well, until next time, live free, dream big.